Over the years, being off and on medication, it did a number on my speech patterns. It did a number on me, and so on. And also created the opportunity for them to try to, discredit a scholar. And also, resulted in me saying, no matter what people say about somebody, listen to what they have to say. The more people go out of their way to play someone out as crazy or, what have you, the more you should listen to what they have to say. What is the real reason for them playing this person out? You know, is he actually crazy, or is, and if he is, did they make him that way because of what he was saying? So anyway, let me just play you Illuminati Part 1. Remember, the gang stalking really became obvious as I attended University of Phoenix. And universities and education are part of the gang stalking group. It made it very easy for them to do it. But before that, gang members and other people and police officers and the other forms of social control were giving me a hard time because they know where I was going. So let's play this.
Deities are important, Molech and Baal, and I'll get into them later. Also, Osiris, Horus, and Amun-Ra. Now, whites long ago, the Greeks specifically, used to go to Egypt and learn, including Herodotus. They used to travel down the rivers, the many rivers they have there, and they would get as far as they could inland, and they would notice as much as they could, and they would learn from them, and they would trade with them. Okay? Alexander the Great even laid in a sarcophagus for 3 days and 3 nights in Egypt.
Illuminati Part 1.
And this is well recorded
Ancient
in
Egyptian wisdom
well.
is black African collected by ancient Europeans.
So there is obvious connections of white people stealing black ideas. Okay, Egypt is a Greek word meaning black. Kemet meant land of the blacks. Okay, and Herodotus recorded them as being people who were dark-skinned and having wool-like hair. Okay,
land of Ptah, land of the blacks, house of Ptah.
Well,
Egyptos.
The Egyptians were people that were far more advanced than other peoples. Like the Native Americans built pyramids too, but they didn't have the huge blocks. They didn't have the mathematical
Osiris, Lord of the Blacks,
genius about them. So they weren't of the same caliber, and they weren't of the same.
Yeah, let me just clear the air on this. When I said this about Native Americans, there were several reasons. One, I wanted to show the fact that Egyptian culture was superior to every other culture. Two, I wanted to make people understand that secret societies, migrated, for the last couple thousand, several thousand years, going back into history, secret societies have migrated through India, through island hopping, etc., etc., and found their way to different places. And they built monuments, and there's artifacts that show that. And you have a lot of disingenuous archaeologists and anthropologists who pretend that this is all some kind of accident. And they do so because it's part of the secret society propaganda and lie in order to control people. In order to control people, it's effective so they don't understand how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and what have you. So anyway.
Knowledge. And they weren't as old either. So, when you look at this ancient...
And also, once you introduce people to secret societies, you start telling them these things. You'll get a lot of stupid bitches, You say, well, women were actually greater than they were, and, you're telling people in a way that's getting them to do what you want. You're telling women that, women were goddesses and queens, and you're putting extras on it, you're lying about it, and you're doing it in a secret society way. You're giving them half-truths. And so they start saying, wow, this guy's so smart and blah, blah, blah. And, that's part of what's going on, too. Anyway.
Empire as the king of other empires that taught the other ones
exactly. That's why I said that.
How to kind of have their own empire and how to do it right. And other people would go there and marvel at the pyramids, marvel at the temples, the sun temples, and the different gods' temples, and they would envy the Egyptians.
Fact. All my key points.
So
Fact.
The Persians would eventually invade them in the BC.
The Persians.
And
Darius,
during the Foreign period,
Xerxes,
the Romans and the Greeks would also invade for a while. And then finally the Arabs,
Babylonians, Persians, Cambyses,
invaded in the 7th century. And this is why Egyptians are Arab-like to this day. Now you see in the Sudan that Arabs are killing off blacks just like they did in Egypt. Because this is part of
gentrification,
not only
population
conquest
control
for Islam, but conquest for the Arab people.
Sorry about that.
But they want to cover up the fact that these people were black and not Arab.
Bingo.
The blacks migrated west as the Arabs invaded.
Because the same thing people have the problem with. When they look at Egypt now, they say, oh, the ancient Egyptians must have been like the modern day Egyptians. Same thing we look at Native Americans. You say, well, they must have looked like this. It's everything. It's like, that's what we associate with that. So that's part of why they're doing it. If you can get rid of blacks in Sudan, and then in the future when you start telling people, well, there was, Sudanese, it starts becoming more okay to tell people that the Sudanese were some of the people, Nabta Playa, the people, the people who started the Egyptian religion, the people before the pre-dynastic peoples, it becomes more okay. But once you paint the picture that there was dark-skinned people, and the reason why Upper Egypt is considered the bottom half is because it was black people from the middle belt, and their descendants moved down to South Africa and toward western middle Africa, Nigeria, what have you.
And a lot of the real
Sudan.
descendants of the ancient Egyptians are the people of West Africa
Exactly.
and Central African countries.
Exactly.
For that reason.
Exactly.
So
Migration. Movement
let us
of
get into
people.
more the Greeks specifically. Socrates.
You're gonna have idiots who don't get that, That's like saying the African Americans are really Native American. As if people don't fucking migrate due to slave trade and fucking war. I mean, come on.
And all these so-called great minds. But I would argue that they're in secret societies that...
And wasn't it exactly war and slave trade, which usually goes hand in hand with war, that caused the African Americans to come all the way across the fucking world? It was war. The Muslims fighting them, the Igbo fighting other tribes, the Igbos fighting each other. Wars, the slave wars, the wars of the time. And the Europeans bringing them guns to fight more wars to displace more people. Refugees, slaves, and we see the same fucking thing with ISIS in the Middle East. We see slaves, we see refugees, we see migrations. You fucking idiots. Do people migrate toward their oppressor? Ask the refugees, why don't they migrate toward fucking Raqqa? Why don't they go to Raqqa? Because their oppressor is centered in Raqqa. The same reason. The ancient Egyptians didn't migrate toward Europe and fucking the Middle East because that's where the invaders were centered. Gosh, to explain this to you fucking idiots.
Took ideas from the secret societies and merely made them public. And a lot of them were writing books and poems based on ideas they had learned from their contact with the ancient mystery schools, okay, which would evolve into the secret societies. So that's why I call them secret societies. The ancient Egyptians themselves also called themselves KM or Kam'al.
There's some stuff like this. These aren't really key points, but they're supporting points. And, I got them from websites that were probably less than trustworthy. It took me probably about 15, 20 videos before I started using only valid sources. I started using any source I can get because I knew that a lot of the mainstream sources were full of shit. So I started turning to more Afrocentric sources. And so this might not be the complete truth, but I'm sure there's some truth in it.
And black people or black god.
Osiris is the Lord of the Black. A black god person.
Now, we have to realize also that a lot of their religious stories come from ancient Egypt. Jesus comes from the story of Horus and Osiris and Isis, okay? So you have Genesis, the genes of Isis.
So what had happened is, just like, religion is part of history, okay? White people twist these stuff, so we have to have our own scholars dig deep. And sometimes our own scholars are in secret societies who are pushing the white man, the white Jews, irregardless of the white man's religion, irrespective of his religion, okay? White people long ago, whether it was Jews, whether it was fucking people who later on claimed they're Jews, whether it was Greeks and Romans, whether it was fucking white people within the Persian, whites long ago used to go to Egypt and learn. This is fact. Irrefutable fact. Memphis, Karnak, Luxor, irrefutable fact. Thebes, Waset, fact. And what do? They twisted things. Their secret societies, they even twist their own twist. They twist things and they twist it again. Denominations of Christianity. I gotta explain this to you.
When you look deeply into the Egyptians and to the Jews,
Denominations of Masonry.
The Jews learned a lot from them.
Blue Laws, York Rite,
So
Rosicrucians,
we have this
Scottish Rite.
migration of people toward Africa, and we have
migration of people toward Africa.
The African knowledge
Invaders.
leaving
African knowledge leaving
them as they're expelled, and then
as they're
take
expelled.
credit for them. They take credit for it for
And so
themselves.
these people take credit
and
for
they
themselves.
Remake the deities.
They remake
to
the
white.
deities to white deities. Apis,
Okay.
Serapis, Hades,
For example, in ancient Babylon, you had these
Nana.
gods that were these African people that brought these gods
Utu.
to the Middle East. You know, like Nana, the god of the moon. You know, Utu, god of the sun, etc. Okay. And Nimrod, you know, was Noah's grandson. He's the one who founded Babylon.
Okay. So here's, I make some mistakes here. Okay. See, Cush begot Nimrod, according to the Bible. And Nimrod became one of the cities, so I'm not mistaken. Okay? And you can interpret as Nimrod truly was the one who founded Babylon. Okay, so he was Noah's great-grandson. So there's slight mistakes, Slight mistakes, understandable, completely understandable, being fucking harassed by scum, arguing with filth about this, putting a bunch of facts in one video with fucking some quickly made notes. Completely understandable. That's why I say my key points are what I want you to prove me wrong, not the supporting points. It doesn't matter if the supporting points, some of them fail to support the key point, as long as the key point is fucking right. Doesn't matter if you make a little slip, oh, grandson, great-grandson, who fucking cares?
Have all these black people with these spiritual ideas coming, and then you have these white people with bad intentions to
steal them.
And now the ancient mystery schools are turning into secret societies. And now they have a white twist to it. And the knowledge is not being used to help mankind.
Nope.
Or to have a righteous king.
Nope.
Knowledge is used to promote the secret societies on earth.
Bingo.
And they keep it from the people.
Bingo.
And instead of giving it to the wise, they give it to the wicked people.
Bingo. Bingo.
So then, of course, Alexander the Great, after he laid in the sarcophagus in Egypt, he ends up dying.
All right, so let's skip to the end.
And later, where you see Illuminati stamps being used.
So here I am talking about Illuminati stamps in Stalinist, communist Russia. Okay? People don't want to talk about this. They used to have stamps with little coded Illuminati pyramids in them. Because there was Jews. Because there was white people who took on the identity of Jews. Now, whether or not there was some Jews in the Khazarian Empire, I don't fucking know. I don't know how much they're bullshitting about their DNA tests. There's some that say yay, there's some that say nay. I don't fucking know. What I do know is there was a bunch of white people, and that's what they do. That's what they do. That's what they do. You saw this during the time of Herod. I believe it was Agrippa. You've seen Jews prostituting themselves to the Roman aristocracy. And they interbred. You see the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, they interbred. White people and white people who took on the identity of Jews. Coming together.
And they talk about subversive methods of controlling the world, and they talk about infiltrating other governments, etc. But I'll get to that more in my next video. Well, a lot of Alexander the Great, of course, he's known for a few battles and for pushing his army far into Asia. And a lot of the reason why it was more celebrated than say groups like the Mongols, even though Mongols had a bigger empire, is because these are white guys. And the main reason they're getting credit for it is ideas that they have stolen from the Egyptians. And it's quite sad that the white people have stooped so low as to steal ideas and not give credit to the rightful person. Then they turn around and make it such importance to them that people put their sources in the back of their book. Well, the original plagiarism
has been done by you, Mr. White Man. And we are still waiting for your apology. Now, I have no time now. I gotta wrap it up. On the thing in the subtitle, in the annotation, I say I have on the net on psychiatry, history, political science, sociology, secret societies, my raps, etc. So eugenics encompasses all these things. So does what the conspiracy that JFK was talking about in his secret society. I'm out of time. Thank you.